Welcome to Five or Flop, a podcast for the best and worst historical fiction has to offer. I'm your host, Erin.
And I'm Grace, and each week we'll be reading a different historical fiction play to see if they're a five or a flop.
Our theme for season 6 is All the World's a Stage, and this week we're reading A Man for All Seasons by Robert Bolt, which is a play that I have heard of by name so many times, never actually knew what it was about.
And I have read this one before, but even doing a little bit of research, I uncovered some things about it that I did not know before.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. All right. Well, what's been new with you?
We have recently had 4th of July weekend. I think both of us were a little run down because of the heat dome.
It was bad.
Yeah. But, you know.
Hottest DC since like 1919 or something?
Yeah. I can say that, you know, I had some nice times this weekend, but I think I'm happy to leave it behind.
I am too. It was a busy weekend. Santiago's parents were in town, and while it was lovely to see them and spend time with them, we also found ourselves in the heat a lot, and I think all of us were just like really wiped out. But we got to go to some museums, which was excellent. However, because of Trump's amazing America State Fair that was closed because of the heat, they wouldn't let anyone. Well, I don't think you could cut through without going into the fair anyways, but typically for those not in DC, you can just cut across the National Mall to get to museums, and it takes like 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was closed off, we had to walk the entire length of the mall, so it was probably like 40 minutes.
I was going to say, and it's not short.
It's not short. It's very hot. And even, like I said, the fair was closed. So I think at that point, we all would have been willing just to like go through the admissions line and be counted as visitor numbers simply to go to the exit across the street. And we couldn't even do that.
Wow.
So that was very hot. However, love the museums.
I do love that on a 4th of July weekend.
Yes. It's very, as close to patriotic as I'm getting.
Yeah. Was Air and Space busy?
Oh my God, it was, well, all the museums also were just like people trying to cool off too.
Yeah.
So there, Air and Space, we get there, there's a lot of people just like sitting on the floor on the main level. Very busy. Well, we went there and we went to the African American History Museum, which, as you can imagine, with many of the clientele in DC this weekend, that museum was not busy. That is one of my favorite museums. It's probably my top 3 in DC.
It's an excellent museum.
Fabulously well done. And Air and Space is really cool as well, especially now that I work in the space industry. So I know a little bit more than I ever have stepping foot in that museum.
So you've unlocked another museum where you can go in and be like, I am smarter than the people that I'm with here.
I can point at something and be like, that is a satellite. Really big for me.
Congratulations.
So, but yeah, that one was more crowded, much more politically affiliated merch on the people walking around there. So I think that kind of soured the mood a little bit. But they have, I believe it's all fully open now. So that's cool.
I want to go. I haven't been since they did the refurb.
It's a really nice museum. We didn't, and again, it was so crowded. We got there maybe like an hour before it was closing. So we didn't have a ton of time either. So we definitely didn't do everything in there.
Yeah.
But I would recommend going not when it is 102 degrees.
I will take that advice.
Anything notable from your 5th of July? Just that it happened?
Just that it happened. Mostly, I was very much a stickler about the amount I was willing to walk in the heat, which was about 4 blocks.
Yeah.
So fortunately, the worst of it was not actually on 4th of July. I did not have daytime plans then. Mm-hmm. And by evening, because it started to thunderstorm nearby, the heat did drop significantly.
Yeah, we got like a really, really bad windstorm. And then it dropped. So
yeah. So most of my 4th of July, to be honest, involved seeing the fireworks and a lot of the flyovers.
Yes.
I would not have necessarily said that I would have wanted there to be flyovers, but I'm not. A lot of people are anti-flyover, which I get because it's noisy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bother me particularly. So,
yeah.
You know, as far as like closing the mall and the state fair and whatever, to me, I was like, that is a fairly innocuous part of the 4th of July for me.
Yeah. But did you get any reading done over the 4th of July?
I did, actually, and I read a historical fiction book.
Oh,
that I think
not for the pod?
Not for the pod. That actually I think that you would probably like. Mm-hmm. It was called The Calamity Club.
Okay.
It's the new book by Catherine Stockett, who wrote The Help.
I was going to say that name sounds so familiar.
Yes, and so she hasn't written any books since The Help. So it's been like, I don't know, 15 years at least.
It's been out a while.
And it was really good, actually. It focused on these three women during the Depression, and then one of them is a little girl at an orphanage. One of them has come up from the Mississippi Delta because her sister has married rich and she's come to ask her sister for money.
As one does.
And then they kind of collide with this third woman who I won't go into what her deal is.
Okay.
But it was a long book. It was like 600 pages. Yeah. But I texted my mom after because she sent it to me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I could have read 300 more.
Maybe I could do that as an audiobook.
You would like it, I think. Especially if you have travel coming up or, it's summer. You might be going places. Maybe you're lounging on a beach. Good time for an audiobook.
I don't really have that kind of travel coming up, but I always have a commute. So it's always a good time for an audiobook. Currently, I'm on a little bit of a pause from an audiobook, though. I've just been listening to music because I'm just like...
audiobooked out.
A little Iron Flame burnt me out. But I have been reading.
Okay.
And I'm a little bit in between, but I'm going to talk about two things. One, to follow up on our previous discussions. I finished Petals on the Wind. I kept saying Petals in the Wind. But it obviously couldn't be named Petals in the Wind because the first book is Flowers in the Attic.
So you can't do the in again.
We need a different one. Loved it. Such drama. So we were mistaken. We thought the original, because there's a bunch of books.
Yes.
But the original we thought were just 3, but there are 4 originals.
Okay.
So the copy I checked out from the library has the 3rd and 4th in one. So I thought the 3rd was just really big. It is not. Which is If There Be Thorns and Something with Seeds.
Seeds of Yesterday.
Seeds of Yesterday. So I'm very excited to read those. We also have another movie night coming up where we will, now that we've seen Flowers in the Attic, which I don't think we've talked about with Sally Draper.
We watched the movie.
We are going to watch Petals on the Wind with the girl from Christmas Prince.
And that is truly inspired casting.
Incredible. For an older Sally Draper.
It works.
What's her name? Kiernan Shipka? Something?
Yeah.
For an older Sally Draper, it looks like her kind of. So I'm excited for that. What else I'm reading? I just started to continue on my YA train. I don't think I mentioned had read Legend by Marie Lu.
Oh, I don't know that you did.
Yeah, it was fine. Like, it wasn't great. It was fine. It was like classic dystopian YA. It was fine. I read it pretty quickly. So that is one of 4. So last night, as I was consoling Flynn during the fireworks, I started the second one, which is called Prodigy.
Okay.
So more to come on that, but so far that's going to wind up being very middle of the range, kind of palate cleanser because like the Selection and Shatter Me are really going to
test
me. So not Shatter Me actually, because that one was very short to get through. So I hate to put it up there with the Selection and Matched, shall we say? This is a very palate cleanser. It's fine. It's good. It's good. It's another one where I read the first one as a youth and never read the others.
Okay. Well, hopefully they turn out really good by the end.
I hope so.
Okay. And hopefully we have the same thing to say about A Man for All Seasons.
I hope so as well.
All right. Here is the synopsis. A Man for All Seasons dramatizes the conflict between King Henry VIII and Sir Thomas More. It depicts the confrontation between church and state, theology and politics, absolute power, and individual freedom. Throughout the play, Sir Thomas More's eloquence and endurance, his purity, saintliness, and tenacity in the face of ever-growing threats to his beliefs and family earn him status as one of modern drama's greatest tragic heroes.
All right.
This is an interesting one. It kind of glazes the character rather than the playwright, which is new.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really expects you, I think, to know what happened between Henry VIII and Sir Thomas More, which, to be fair, I think a lot of people do know that.
Yeah, that's true. I had, it's something I knew once I refreshed myself on it. But when I first started reading this play, I'm like, I'm going to have to look this up quickly. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, got it. I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this is a different King Henry that was in Murder the Cathedral.
Yeah.
This is the one we know and love from The Other Boleyn Girl.
Exactly. We don't have to look up how he's related to the other kings. No King John connection here this time, so We're marked safe from that.
Marked safe from Shakespeare.
Exactly. But yeah, should I talk a little bit about Robert Bolt?
I would love that.
All right. So Robert Bolt was born in England in 1924. He, prior to being a playwright, was in the Royal Air Force. And then after getting out of the Royal Air Force, he earned a history degree and he taught for a handful of years before writing plays. His first successful play was one called Flowering Cherry. I had not heard of that.
Okay.
But shortly after, in 1960, he wrote A Man for All Seasons, and that is his most successful play by far. The thing that I find interesting about Robert Bolt is, with the exception of the composers and lyricists from 1776, this is, I think, so far this season, or maybe all season, our only playwright who is not primarily known as a playwright. He wrote a handful of plays, only 7, so not our most prolific by far. And after that, he became much more well-known as a screenwriter.
Okay.
So he was nominated for 3 Oscars for Dr. Zhivago.
That's on the movie poster.
And A Man for All Seasons and Lawrence of Arabia.
Lawrence of Arabia is also on the movie poster. Oh my god. So follow up to movie poster Potluck Night, Gone with the Wind. 2 more to come.
Yes. So he won for Best Adapted Screenplay for Dr. Zhivago and A Man for All Seasons. And this is what I did not know, which is the movie version of A Man for All Seasons, which was made in 1966, so 6 years after the play came out, won Best Picture.
Wow.
Like, it won a whole bunch of stuff. It won Best Director. Obviously, he won for the screenplay. Like, it was highly successful.
Oh my god.
So the original play also won Best Play at the Tonys. And then, so there was the play in 1960, this movie in 1966. And then in 1988, he wrote a separate adaptation for it as a TV movie.
Why would he do that?
I don't know. It was apparently also successful.
Like the Flowers in the Attic TV movie.
Yeah, exactly. So he wrote some other movie and TV projects, including one called The Red Tent, which is not the red tent that we know. I just thought that was a funny coincidence, so I threw that in. He also was fairly active in politics. He was jailed for 1 month for refusing to swear that he would stop protesting against England's involvement with nuclear power and nuclear arms, which is good. Like, I am against that too. And he, basically kept writing up until he died, around the time he died in 1995.
All right. Well, I had no previous familiarity. However, apparently I have some of his movies to watch coming up.
Yeah.
Lawrence of Arabia is almost 4 hours.
Oh.
So a true follow-on to Gone with the Wind.
Okay. Well, you can watch that, and you can watch Dr. Zhivago, and you can say, thank you, Robert Bolt. I know who you are.
I will indeed say that. I will be able to tell Santiago, oh my god, do you remember this podcast episode? And he's like, no, because it went up to YouTube on private and I couldn't listen to it, even though your settings on YouTube say that it should go on public.
At YouTube, stop.
At YouTube, please stop this.
But I will say I have not actually seen any of those movies yet either. Okay. So apologies for that. I have read A Man for All Seasons before. It has been a handful of years, but I own a copy of it just because I bought it in my era in high school of being like, I'm so smart and cerebral. I read smart books and, like buying stuff like this from the used bookstore. So I did read it once before and I reread it for this.
All right. Shall we disclaimer?
We shall disclaim.
Our judgments come based on the play and characters within the play rather than any real historical figures they may have been based on, and spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead. So I would like to start by saying the conditions upon which I began reading this. A plane. So I was coming back.
Was there Benadryl?
No. I was coming back from a work trip. So it was like the time on the plane before you can use your laptop and buy plane Wi-Fi. Yes. So I had some time to kill before I could it was during the workday before I could start working. Yeah. It was immediately I finished Flowers in the Attic and then picked this book up. So my first note goes, this will be nothing after Flowers in the Attic.
That's very unfortunate and true.
But I really enjoyed this one.
Hooray!
So two in a row for me that are doing well. But yeah, so this was another plain one. This one, I just kind of was in a little bit of a reading slump. Nothing against this play, and it really didn't impact my thoughts on the play afterwards. It took me a long time to get through.
Yeah.
Because there are no scene breaks.
There are no scene breaks. There's 2 acts. Mm-hmm. But then they just people come on and off stage throughout. So you kind of had to try and hit a pausing point, and if I wasn't in the mood to try and look for that, I was like, no, I'll read this tomorrow. Yeah. the mechanism through which they are able to kind of do that, because not 100% of the scenes have Thomas More in them, even though obviously most of them do, is they have the character of the common man.
I loved him. He'd do anything for a coin.
Honestly, he had a lot of jobs, the common man.
And it took me a minute to figure out because they'd retitle him.
Yes.
As like the steward or the whatever job, the servant,
the boatman.
The boatman, yeah.
So he moved kind of between the scenes to be kind of like the regular guy in the scene, you know, with all of the nobles who are controlling the country. But he also would speak to the audience.
I have a note on this.
Yes.
Because I have said many times that I don't like fourth wall breaks.
Like Murder in the Cathedral.
And The Revolutionists.
Yes.
I love an aside. All I want is just like a quippy one line to the audience. That is the perfect amount of fourth wall break. I don't even consider it fourth wall break. It's an aside. It's its own literary convention. And I thought this play had really nice uses of them. I also thought and I didn't say this during King John, I thought there were some good ones in King John as well.
I agree.
With the bastard was his name?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought he had some good ones as well. So call back to King John. I actually do have a compliment for you.
Props for Shakespeare. So I also really liked the use of the common man. And I noted, so when I do the research, if there is like an author's note or a preface, I read it. Otherwise, I definitely don't. Sorry.
You're still better than me. I don't do it either way.
Yeah. But Robert Bolt wrote something really interesting about the character of the common man, which is he had to do a lot of tweaking, and they had to do a lot of tweaking like in the live production of how that character worked. Because he was like, I put him in to be like the relatable point with the audience. Because like, if they plucked you out of the audience and put you in the play, obviously you're not going to be King Henry. You're going to be the common man. Yeah. You know? But he said the audience did not relate to him. They viewed, instead of being on par, viewed him as beneath them because people don't like being called common. Oh. That's the thing. And I'm like, I get it. But I thought that was very interesting.
That is very interesting.
That he was like, I was trying to do this like device that I couldn't make work.
That's a very interesting like consideration he was trying to make. But at the same time, I appreciate him being like, it didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. Or at the very least, they had to like try to make it work, and it didn't at first. But I agree that it also was one of the things in the play. We're jumping around a lot. Do you mind if I
okay. If you want to just do like a quick hit summary, it's basically like this is while the King Henry VIII is seeking to divorce to marry Anne Boleyn. Sir Thomas More, I guess I can't call him saint at the time.
Yeah.
Sir Thomas
He wasn't
More,
a saint yet, but he would become a saint later.
Sir Thomas More, who was in his court as XYZ function, whatever, was very morally against this from a Catholic standpoint. It comes down to it, like they want him to voice this. He never publicly says he's against this. And then it goes to his trial eventually, because there's this one guy who's, I didn't even write down, the guy who's like the villainous
Cromwell.
guy. Cromwell, who's not the Cromwell who eventually ruled England for a while.
Different Cromwell.
I did, because I that did make me do a double take, and I like looked it up to confirm. I'm like, these have to be separate people.
No, there's
right?
Thomas and Oliver.
Yes. So Cromwell like wants to see him convicted. So eventually they have like this whole like oath thing where they like sneak in a line about like, oh, this divorce was totally justified, and More wouldn't sign it. And that is basically the entire premise.
Yes. So the whole book basically is him trying to kind of use technicalities to weasel his way out of this.
And I thought it was so funny.
Yes. And him then like slowly realizing that like he can't anymore. Yeah. So he does have that great moment at the end, finally, when the stage directions are like, everything he says for the rest of the play is like a man who's angry and doesn't care anymore. Yeah. Because he knows he's dead. But then he finally says like, this is a sham, like in the face of the Pope. Yeah. You know, like, and that was very good.
I felt very justified for him. And like, I know he still was executed, but I felt very justified.
Yes. But the interesting thing that is put into the play is this is obviously the themes mostly relate to Thomas More and his conscience and what you do when you're pressured to fold on something that you believe, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But then the consequences of that decision for others. So that's reflected in the character of the common man in his role as Moore's steward when he gets let go from his job.
Yep.
And he's like, well, now I'm a regular person and I can't feed myself.
Yeah.
Because you are taking this stance that you could just be like, sure, I'll sign the
Yeah. And there was one point where he like offered him like less wages. And the common man's like, what am I supposed to do with that? Like,
yeah. And then also on his wife, Alice.
Yes.
And she is a good character because he will be like, don't be mad at me. Like, everything will be fine. And she'll like clap back and be like, actually, I am mad at you and you are going to die and it's not going to be fine. So that was interesting that I think Robert Bolt bothered to like think about the consequences of that decision for others.
I don't think you have a like with the Crucible, you don't really get like the consequences of John Proctor's actions on Elizabeth Proctor so much.
Well, because she is like pro him doing what he's doing.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see that comparison of like someone who's not really pro what he's doing, or to the extent that I think Alice was kind of going along with it up to a point.
Yes. And it's an interesting, you have Alice, who is Thomas More's wife, and you have Margaret, who is his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And Margaret's reaction to all of this is kind of strictly from a perspective of love. Like, I don't want my father to be executed.
Yeah.
But she has her security. She has a husband. Like, she has her own. Alice is like, what am I going to do once they kill you? And you kind of know that it's not going to be good, whatever ends up happening to Alice. Yeah. So that I thought was interesting to explore the knock-on effect of the great men making these great decisions, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Some things, overall, I really liked this play. Mm-hmm. I have a couple, like, nitpicky things.
Yes.
I had a really hard time following how much time was passing in this play.
Me too.
Maybe they need, like, the little calendar on stage like they had in 1776.
Or maybe it's just not supposed to matter. I don't know.
It felt consequential, though. That time was passing, and I didn't think it was illustrated very well.
It definitely wasn't.
Didn't come across.
Yeah.
I also, like, maybe I just missed this. I didn't really get the title.
Yeah, I thought there would be a quote.
I thought it was going to be one of those, oh my God, here it is.
Yeah. Let me relate this to another point that I have, because I think they have the same answer. Mine was like, last week, we were talking about the themes of the Crucible and how it's like, oh, it's about this period in history, and it illustrates something that they were dealing with in their current day. Yeah. In this one, it's not quite one-to-one. Again, I think it's just the ideas of, like, you know, you're standing up for your beliefs and, like, all of that. But I think that he's just not having to work that hard to make those connections because he picked, like, an interesting period of time.
Yeah.
Like, with the title, like, again, I just Googled to double check because I thought there would be a part in the play where they say Man for All Seasons, but there isn't. Okay. I was like, just in case I skipped it, but there isn't. So I think it's just him being like, this is a play about a great man.
Yeah. And, like, it's super nitpicky, but I'm like, hey, I would have liked to have had a little bit more clarity there, but.
Yeah.
Does Thomas More make an appearance in The Other Bowling Girl? Do you remember?
I don't think he does.
I don't think he does. I don't think it matters.
Like, maybe they mention him, but he definitely doesn't talk.
Yeah.
Like, they probably at one point are like, oh, Moore has been executed, like, hooray.
He wasn't in the movie version, at least, so.
Or maybe he got cut out. Like,
maybe, like, yeah.
No. My only thing about this that I kind of see as, like, a little bit negative, and only a little, because I agree with you, I like this play. Mm-hmm. I have read it before. It was a little more boring than I remembered it being. Like, when I reread Circe, I remember saying back then, like, I wasn't that looking forward to rereading this because it's, like, a whole thing. But I enjoyed myself just as much the second time. This time, I'm like, this is a teeny bit more boring than I remembered it being.
Yeah, it was a little slow, and I think for me, what would have helped was a better understanding of the passage of time.
Yes.
I think that would have helped me get the pacing a bit more. But I think overall, like, I still enjoyed my experience. There were parts I thought, like at the trial when they were like, oh, there's 2 witnesses that heard you talking about this, and one of them is here. And they're like, where's the other one? They're like, oh, he's out of town this weekend. Yeah. Like, there were moments I found, like, very amusing and enjoyable throughout this.
Uh-huh.
But I agree with you. It felt, like, bogged down at points.
I have one thing that I liked, and I want to get your take on it.
Yeah.
Which is, at one of the points when the common man is addressing the audience, he is telling us, I think it's right after Moore has come out of a meeting with all of these people who are trying to get him to sign the oath and support Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn's marriage. And he lets us know that the three of the four of them, so Norfolk, Cromwell, and Cranmer, are in the future going to be executed for treason. Okay. So they haven't been yet, and neither has Moore. But he's like, just so you know, this is what's going to happen to these guys later. And then there's also the one character, Richard Rich, which is stupid, but it's his real name, like in real life.
Okay.
And they were like, oh, and then he just kind of got a couple of minor titles and like lived his life, you know, like he was supposed to, and died and didn't get executed. It's interesting that he put that in there where he chose to.
I liked it for the reason I didn't like the St. Joan epilogue.
Oh.
Because I think that felt just like very tacked on, like explaining what happened. This one, I thought it fit naturally with the asides. Like it didn't feel like it was too out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it would have been, I don't want to say inappropriate, not inappropriate in the sense of like it should have been in there at all, but with how the rest of the play was structured, I think it would have been inappropriate to put it anywhere else.
I agree.
But I
like you can't just throw it in the end, like, no. By the way.
Which is a little how I felt with parts of the epilogue of St. Joan. And a little bit how I felt like with the knights breaking the fourth wall and kind of explaining everything in Murder in the Cathedral.
Yes.
So like I said, I think an aside is very classy, and I think it fit with how the rest of the asides were in this play. And I liked having that. I mean, I feel like, as someone who's familiar with this time period, like I knew that like most of these people were going to get executed at some point, but I liked having it in there for those who are less familiar with this time period. I think that was a good place to put it. So I liked that.
Mm. And I think it supports the theme, because even though these three men meet the same fate as Thomas More, he's saying doing all of this grasping for power is not going to benefit you.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, you have the choice to make if you want to stand up for your convictions like Thomas More, or be like Richard Rich and not really be important, but be willing to kind of bend the way the wind is blowing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can choose to do what you think is right.
Yes.
Because, like, Alice Moore is very willing for her husband to just sign this oath.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and I totally get why.
Yeah, and for her as a woman has, you know, as a woman in this time period who didn't have a lot of options, it's very significant for her. But at the same time, it's like, maybe it would have bought him 2 more years.
Yeah. So I think that this play finds an interesting midpoint with a lot of the other ones that we've seen, where some of them are like, oh, they have this deep, like, background meaning. And then for ones like Life of Galileo, where we're like, this is just kind of about Galileo. This, I feel like, occupies like a nice middle ground where you don't have to know a lot about what the intention of the play was to get the themes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I liked it. I agree with you. I think it was a bit boring at times, but overall, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very interesting. This is one I would like seeing acted out, because I would like to hear some of these line deliveries specifically. Yes. I've said for some of them, like, I want to see how this is staged or blah, blah, blah. This one is specifically like, I want those line deliveries. Like, I want to hear this.
I agree.
Historical accuracy?
Let's do it. I actually don't have a ton here.
That's okay. I mean, this is also like, I feel like when a period where like one or both of us is a bit more familiar with it, we don't go as heavy-handed.
No, we don't. And again, like I said, in the edition that I have, I did read the preface, which was written by Robert Bolt himself. And his first quote, like leading off of it, was, "The bit of English history, which is the background to this play, is pretty well known." So even he's like, people know what's up with this. So obviously the conversations that took place were invented dialogue for the play, but it is true that those were the men who were attempting to persuade Thomas More to take the oath, or in the case of the Spanish ambassador, to not take the oath. And he chose not to, based on his convictions, and he was executed by Henry VIII in 1535 for refusing to take the oath. Now, I tried to look into specifically Alice and Margaret, his wife and his daughter, and I could find like basically no information about Alice Moore from like legitimate sources. Yeah. Like there were a lot of like blogs that had stuff, but it's like, I'm not gonna put unverified information onto our podcast. But basically all I could really find is that she was his second wife. She married him fairly quickly after the death of his first wife, I think, because he was like, he and his first wife had 4 kids. Margaret is the oldest of those 4 kids. So he was like, I just need another wife. You know, back, fair enough. That's how it went back in the day. So Alice is Margaret's stepmother. So, and like, that's literally it. Like, that's all I could get. So unfortunately, I can't really say what happened to her after Moore's execution. Maybe if I had been like, if I still had university library access, I could have gotten something off JSTOR, but you know, I could not. But Margaret Moore, as in the play, she becomes Margaret Roper by marrying William Roper, who is a character in the play, slightly a minor one, slightly a comedic character, actually. But she, as in the play, you see her speak Latin with Henry VIII, so she was very dedicated to learning, and that was encouraged by her father that she should be educated. There's a little bit more information that I could find about her because she has been published during her lifetime. She translated a study of the Lord's Prayer into English, and that was very popular amongst people in Tudor times to read, so good for her. And also, William Roper ended up writing a biography of Thomas More that historians like to reference, and he was able to write it because Margaret Roper had compiled and saved all of her father's papers.
Oh, fabulous.
Yes, so very interesting. We love an educated queen. But yeah, that's very brief, but that's kind of all I got.
That's good with me. I'm happy with that.
Then I think we should star calculate.
All right. I can kick this off. Historical accuracy. I don't. 5. It's fine. Everything's accurate to me. I'm like, it seems like there weren't things invented about Alice. I feel like this is very much like makes sense for how Moore's wife would have reacted.
Well, it's kind of the same that we said during the other Boleyn girl. It's like, if you want to write a book about Anne Boleyn's sister, about Mary Boleyn, like, you just have to make up a personality for her.
Yeah,
and we don't know who she was.
And that's fine. And that is totally fine with me. Originality, for 3. Because, you know, Robert Bolt even said, like, this is a very well-known period of history. I mean, we're sitting here talking about the other Boleyn girl, which is like,
came later, granted.
Historical fiction, but like wildly different end of the spectrum. And I think that just goes to show how much of the spectrum, even though it did come later, like this is a broadly covered area. Characters, I'm going to go 5. I thought they were very amusing. I liked them. I liked their different scenes. We didn't even talk about this, but when Margaret was speaking Latin in the play and the king got like huffy because she was better at it than him, like I thought that was amusing. Prose, I'd go 4. Like, there was nothing wrong with it. Nothing's really standing out to me right now. And vibes, I'm going to go 4 as well.
That is a 4.2.
And I gave this a 4.25. So that is fine leaning 5. I'd say pretty heavily leaning 5.
Okay.
Would it be heavily if I read this before all the ones I didn't like?
All the bad ones.
Yeah, right. No, but I did enjoy this one. It was good.
Great. I think historical accuracy, I'm going to stick to my Grace self and go 4. Originality, I agree with you about the 3. I think characters, 4. I really enjoyed the characters.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily get blown away by them.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I'm going to say the same thing about the prose. So 4 for prose and, 4 for vibes. That's a 3.8. That's a little bit low. I think I gave this a 4.
Yeah.
And I would say this is fine, leaning 5. Less heavily 5 than you, but this is a solid, good play.
This is one that I think would be a 1776 case scenario where I enjoyed reading it. I really enjoyed seeing it. I think I would really enjoy seeing this.
Yeah. It was interesting at the beginning of the season because we started with something we've seen and we were like, oh, that'll matter so much going forward. Like, we'll have want to see everything.
I don't think I will have wanted to see.
There's some stuff on here I actually don't think seeing it would make me like it more.
And even St. Joan you really liked, and you're like, I don't want to watch this.
No, it would be so wordy. I was like, I am happy to just read St. Joan. But yeah, 2 good ones in a row.
2 good ones in a row. Can we keep up the streak with The Miracle Worker by William Gibson next time?
I hope so.
I hope so. I have it checked out from the library, so I'm ready to read it. But...
Me too. And neither of us have read it yet. So truly, at the time that we are recording this, it is still a mystery if we're going to like it or not.
Yes, absolutely. I'm hoping we do.
Me too.
I am hoping we do, but,
Was Helen Keller Catholic?
I don't know if she was. But yeah, in the meantime, as we are researching if Helen Keller was Catholic, make sure you're following us on Instagram and Twitter at @fiverflop_pod and subscribing to our Storygraph reading challenge.
If there's anything that you think we should be reading for a future season, you can fill out the recommendation form in the bio of any of our social medias, or with a general query, you can send us an email at fiverfloppodcast@gmail.com.
And until then,
happy reading!
Bye!